Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test.
Mascot has shipped short pieces, rubber hose, with splinters for the hot and for the cold, but it's going to come down and go to the upper and to the lower hot and upper lower cold. But this is rubber hose. We also ship these rubber supply hoses. This is plastic. So I'm going to actually give you those. All right. What I want to do is actually step it up a little bit now. I'm going to put bronze splinters, the separate shutoff valves on each hose, so we can hose and move. Now, those rubber hoses, you know, full to the water, right? And that would flood the dumpster, flood the bumper. That would be bad. All right. So we'll do that. And I'm going to use stainless steel braided hoses. Now, they don't last forever, but they last 2 or 3 times longer than that. Okay. All right. So we'll do that. And then it's just a question of connecting the dots. Good for about that long. We're gonna get one up on the screen.
Can you pull the video of the flag? Or is this? See, I'm leaving mine here for when I come back toward the veterinary building on Wednesday. Oh, there we go. All right.
So is this on? Is that on? Is the light?
I guess that's on.
Sure, I get that right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you out to our governing board meeting for East Valley Institute of Technology. We're here tonight at our new aviation annex building, or however it's properly described. We're also joined here by our partners with the construction and architecture. I think they're going to want to give us a little presentation about that at some point. We're going to begin our meeting with the pledge. We've broadcast a flag on there, and we've asked Mr. Hobson to lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I apologize for the glare. Hopefully it mitigates here in a few minutes, but we'll have to think about the time of year when we use this meeting hall for this. I'm on the wrong page here. All right. The next item on our agenda is presentations and recognitions. So 3A, we have a proposed mascot presentation, and then followed by student celebrations. Who's leading off?
Mr. President, members of the governing board, Mr. Howell is here tonight to discuss with us our process of selecting and recommending a mascot. As you'll remember, probably about 2 years ago, there was some discussion, and it's taken us a bit of time, but we finally have gotten ourselves here. So Mr. Howell.
Mr. President, governing board, Dr. Wilson. So the presentation is going to be given to you by Shelby Lynn Gilbert. She is next year's AM Student Council President. And we figured that because it was the student council endeavor, we would have them present.
Well, hi, everybody. Really good to see you today. I'm going to be giving you your presentation for the new EVIT student council, or not even student council, the whole EVIT mascot for next year. So as you can see on this slide right here, this was our old mascot. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't see it making super much sense to EVIT really at all. So we decided that we are going to make it a whole bunch better. And this is kind of how we came to that conclusion in the process that we underwent to make that happen. So if I can figure this out. Beautiful. So the process is a little bit long. I mean, I just heard Mr. Howell say that it did take us quite a bit of time to come to this conclusion. So the EVIT staff was polled as to whether EVIT should have a mascot and was asked for mascot proposals. The majority of the instructors at EVIT thought that EVIT should have a mascot, and many proposals were made. The idea of a mascot was brought before the student councils and discussed, and students were overwhelmingly in favor of adopting an EVIT mascot. The student councils were polled for mascot proposals, and a reoccurring suggestion was to have the mascot for both campuses, arguing that it would fit the one EVIT mentality. The student council voted to have one mascot for both campuses, and this is AM and PM as well. So one EVIT, one mascot. Originally, the goal was to adopt a unique mascot for both the Power and Main campuses. However, it started with the previous, as stated in the previous slide, many students and faculty members expressed a desire to have one mascot to represent the entire district. This consistent with the one EVIT message. So meet Busy. Busy is our brand new EVIT mascot. Let's see if I can. This is going to be the EVIT B. And I don't know if this was adopted at the Power campus as well, but over at the Main campus, we did stickers this year with themes such as be strong, be loved, things such as that. And we really just felt that the B was going to help us use those mottos and use those things to help support our campus and all of our new endeavors for the 2022-2023 year. So one of our students actually in our graphic design program did design this bee, Busy, and her name is Savannah Gillette Smith. And we just really, really appreciate that she put so much effort into designing this for both of our campuses to represent our district. Thank you.
So there is no action item, just a presentation to let the governing board know where we're at. I think I give Mr. Howell and the student councils a ton of credit because this has been a labor intensive process over the past couple of years. I think one of the pieces that we still have to be mindful of and for is, as you'll see a little bit later, we took another step today towards being able to offer our associate degree. And so if we step into that opportunity and begin having more adults on our campus, how does this all fit together? And so we'll work with student council to kind of make sure that we blend those together. But, and Mr. Howell, but I appreciate the effort and time that you guys spent. Thank you very much.
Were there any questions from the board?
Well, being as your mascot is the bee, I'm a old beekeeper. I would be willing to donate a hive to place out here.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Have
Thank
the real
you.
thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can tell you're embracing.
Yeah.
You were on, push it again. Okay, I have a question, if now's the time for questions. How many how many designs, how many revisions, I guess is the best way I should say, did it take to end up with Busy Bee?
So we at EVIT are all about efficiency. This image was actually crafted last year to represent the Welcome to the Hive theme for this year. And because everyone loved it so much, we said, there it is, our new mascot. Well, we voted for the bee, but then we selected that image to represent the mascot because we already were using it. And it just seemed to make sense.
So it originally started as a Welcome to the Hive.
Yes, it was a theme developed by student council and Cassie Perez as a student council advisor last year for this year, for the posters that hang about the campuses and for the stickers, the monthly stickers that student council hands out every month.
Fabulous. Well, good job.
Thank you.
All right, our student recognitions or celebrations. Mrs. Kuhn.
Thank you, President Lane, board members, Dr. Wilson. Tonight, we're here to celebrate some students. We're going to start with HOSA. It's an addendum to your board packet. I inadvertently left it off the original celebration letters. So I'm going to have the health director, Lindy Mitchell, speak to you on them.
All right, so we've got some great news about HOSA. Over the last several years, HOSA has actually raised over $150,000 for the various local charity organizations. These include both with their annual HOSA walk, which on the Main Street campus is one of the best days of the year, but also with all of their other fundraising that they do outside of the year. We've got two great HOSA chapters, both on this campus and on the Main Street campus. And they are sending several students to the international competition in Nashville this year. You guys are probably looking at that in your board packet because I think it was on the agenda tonight. And we are currently sending 4 students from the EVIT program from Power Campus. So everyone who competed from Power Campus actually made it to internationals. Yeah, really great work.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I'm gonna skip banking. We'll do them at the very end since we have some of the students here tonight to celebrate. But in your packet, you'll see some wonderful achievements that have occurred. Early childhood education. We have one student going to Washington, DC this year. And video, they won first place in the Student Film Festival for the entire Phoenix area. They will receive scholarships as well as, of course, the admiration of all the people in the film industry. Interior design, we had gold medalists, first place winners, silver and second place as well. Our culinary department took home 4 awards. And not only with that, there's a lot of scholarship money tied to them. And a young lady you've met before, Miss Vanessa Ruiz, is in the running for an $80,000 scholarship for college. So we're very excited to see that occur. Our fashion students have also won FITM scholarships and gold medals, and they are headed to nationals in San Diego this summer. We're going to have students spread all over the country. And our Skills USA, they're a little different on the spreadsheet because theirs came sliding in at the last minute from the state championships. And we had a very good showing there, getting numerous gold, silver, and bronze medals to show off our skills and talents. Right now, I'd like to invite up Mr. Berg, our banking and finance teacher. He can explain a little bit about his newly crowned state championship students. Mr. Berg.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I have an opportunity where my students go through an online testing earlier in the fall, and luckily and/or fortunately, we were able to qualify 2 teams to compete in state this year. And it's a combination of 600 students across the state of Arizona who participated in a financial case analysis, as well as various questions and answers related to banking and finance. So we were happy enough to, and fortunate enough to have some great opportunities here. Out of 3 competitions, EVIT took first and second in the financial case. In the quiz bowl, EVIT took second. And overall, EVIT took state. So I'd like to have these individuals, introduce these individuals here. To my left is Jacob. Center here is Caden. And to the back here is Ruben. And we were provided this the 15th. It was April 15th. We competed on Good Friday. And as I said, they were there all day at Mesa Community College. And we were judged by individuals who are financial planners within the field. And not only that, by the way, on their online programs, they were the highest score in the state. And now we have an opportunity to go to regionals and nationals. And we got our test scores compared to nationally, we're in the top 20% right now. So I'm really excited for the opportunity. They will compete between now and the 11th of May for online program. And then they'll be given a case study and they'll have 2 hours to evaluate the study and submit it. And if they're successful, they get an all expense paid trip to New York to compete on the national stage. So we were quite thrilled with their opportunities. Again, the event is called the Mayor's Challenge, and it's held across the nation in every state, and it's financially driven. Questions? Any questions?
Yeah, I do. What program or class is this associated with here at EVIT? Banking and finance, okay.
My previous experience as a mortgage banker.
Apparently it's working. Awesome.
We have a great relationship, by the way, with First Credit Union, located just outside of in downtown Chandler. So they've been our great partner now. And we have an opportunity to shadow in their program. So it's been very, very helpful for them to understand the real financial world. So.
All right, so these young men here, do they have families that are supporting them and having them come to EVIT and propping them up, or you all here by yourselves?
Anybody come with you? No, they're just here all by themselves. And I apologize, there's 5 more of them, but they work, which is very, typical for most of my students as well as I'm sure other instructors too. So they have, they go to school at their home school, they go to EVIT, and then they also have jobs. So it keeps them real busy.
Life is full.
Isn't it?
That's great. Congratulations, guys.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Berg. And just on a note, Mr. Berg's going out on a high note. He's retiring this year as a state championship teacher. So thank you, Mr. Berg, for all your dedication to our students. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
That brings us to our Students of the Month.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, before we start the Students of the Month, I'd just like to take a moment and pause and think for a second about what we just saw and witnessed here. I think it's really easy sometimes in the work that we do to get lost in so many things that happen. But what you just witnessed is what we talk about all the time, that at EVIT, we work hard to change the lives of our students. And we do it in so many different ways, so many on-ramps and off-ramps that we believe change lives. But one of the things we also expressed to our students is, like I've said before, we expect them to be able to do well and do good. Do well means they win. And we repeatedly see our students competing at the highest level, whether it's state or nationals, and winning. And that's a compliment to our faculty and staff. That's a compliment to our students. And that's also a compliment to you for creating an organization that allows us to do the work that we do. So thank you very much. We're very fortunate every single month to have the opportunity to celebrate why we come to work every day, and that's our students of the month. I'd like to start tonight's presentation off with our Power Campus students. And so Mr. Casaro, if you're up, come on.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Power Campus. Before I start with our Power Campus Students Month, Mr. Berg, don't leave quite yet. I just want to say how thrilled I am that Mr. Berg won this award. So I started that banking program, and I remember what it was like before we hired Mr. Berg and what it is now. And that program, the only reason it is what it is right now is because of his hard work. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming and joining our team, and congratulations, and enjoy your retirement. Yeah, yes. So thank you. So now I'd like to talk about some of our students. So our first student was nominated by Janae Galt, and Janae is one of our first-year vet assisting teachers. So Ms. Galt, if you would like to come up and introduce your student, please.
Don't touch it. That's more technology than what I was expecting. Very nice. Would you like to talk to Jenny, or would you like me to introduce what I think is special about her?
So if you would introduce what you think is special, and then we're going to talk to Jenny.
Okay. All right. So to me, Jenny is Student of the Year. So I know we call this Student of the Month, but she's never altered. She's continued to be an outstanding student every month in class. She not only exceeds my expectations, but she exceeds my standards. The standards she sets for herself must be extremely high. Let me try to explain. She gets 100% on just about every exam. I double checked just to make sure my facts were accurate here. And yeah, that's about right. Even our 350 question final that we just took. And there was this one time that she got like a 99.6, and I know she gave 100% to her studies, and I could tell this really bothered her. I said, Jenny, it's okay. You did great. Pat yourself on the back. This is excellent. Yet I could see it still really like didn't sit right with her. And this is not just about her high scores. But let me get backtrack to the person that we are here to honor. She's the one who sets her schedule to make sure she has time for studying, but she is also a person who is passionate about animals, like her cat, Fat Boy, and her friends, her family, life, education, eating healthy, et cetera, et cetera. Such a dedicated person with a caring heart, and ... excellent standards. So going into the medical industry, these are wonderful qualities to have. So I want you to just picture future Dr. Nasty in the medical surgery suite, and the patient's under anesthesia, has no idea what's really going on. But Jenny's going to go back, check everything 100%, because that's just how she is. She's going to get every ligation, every vessel, and I feel she's the type of person that I would trust with my animal's well-being. Not only do your classmates look up to you, but I admire you too. And I'm grateful you're in my class. Thank you for being you. Congratulations. Oh.
So Jenny, tell us a little bit, I mean, we heard a great but tell us a little bit more about yourself, if you would, please.
I want to say thank you to Mascot. Firstly, this is a pretty big deal for me because I was born and raised in Thailand, Southeast Asia. And 8 years ago, I did not know how to form a sentence in English. So this is a very big opportunity, and I'm so thankful for this program. I'm thankful for Miss Gold. She brings her horses in at 8 in the morning, and she lives in Globe, so 2 hours away. Her husband is very great, very sweet.
Oh yeah, because he helped out with the horses.
Most of the week, she brings in her dogs and her cats for us to get that hands-on experience in the class. And I'm very grateful for her and her little car. She brings her animals in. We also do a lot of dissections in class, and we didn't have a lung. I remember we didn't have a lung, and Ms. Gold went out and bought us a lung from the butcher so we could get that experience of how lungs work. And I'm so grateful for that. And she donated those lungs for the other classes, the other vet classes too, which is amazing of her. Yeah.
So tell us, your home high school is Red Mountain?
Red Mountain High School.
Is your home high school?
Yes.
So how did you find out about EVIT?
I found out through a friend, a close friend, and they also went to the main campus. Her sister was in the veterinary field and her brother was in aviation. They both graduated and they're in the veterinary field and aviation. So,
wow. So tell us your pathway after high school. What are your plans?
I'm planning to go to ASU and eventually become a veterinarian.
Very nice. Do you have, is mom, dad, guardian, grandparent, anybody here?
Yep, my mom, dad, and boyfriend are here.
Mom, dad, boyfriend. We understand that as much as it is a pleasure and a privilege to work with your daughter and for your daughter, it's because of what you all are doing. Raising great kids requires great parenting. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to spend time with your child. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Members of the board, do you have questions? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So since we are in the aviation building, it's only fitting that our second student of the month was nominated by Mr. Lou Amity, our second-year aviation instructor. So Mr. Amity, if you could come up and tell us about your student.
Thank you. I might be off the agenda just a little bit, but I just want to thank everybody in this room for this building. As somebody who's been with the aviation program for about 15 years, this is great. So I know a lot of people in here had a lot of work to do to make us here. I just got to be careful now that I have so many visitors. Be careful what you wish for. So I call Justin my Energizer bunny. Okay, everybody knows that commercial and everything, but you know, there's a lot of great students getting a lot of straight A's and perfect attendance and things like that. But this gentleman, I thought I was busy in high school. He doesn't stop, and he's got a lot of passion, a lot of ambition. I guess the biggest thing I can say about Justin, and this is why I put him in for this award, was because I've seen over 2 years how the maturity level and how the dedication, the determination was always there, but the maturity level has just gone way up, and the ambition and the drive. I mean, I'll tell you a few things. Justin works a full-time internship, about 35 hours a week, something like that, almost. Okay, he's going to flight school also. When he's done with that, he was working weekends at the Renaissance Festival while he was doing all this. A lot of other people recognize this. Justin's got a scholarship to start his flight training, which he has already begun. He should be soloing next week, he said. So I know he's got a lot of ambition, a lot of drive of what he's doing. But again, I've never seen somebody with so much so much on their plate, and the way he handles it, the maturity level he handles it. So Justin's going to go places, and I'll let him talk about what his pathway is, everything. But Mom, Dad, I think you're here. Yep. I know this doesn't happen alone, so congratulations to the whole family. Justin.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Amity for awarding me this. I wasn't expecting it this year. I've been on my internship for the past couple months, so I'm not in class, and I was expecting a first year student to be getting it, but I was so grateful when I came in last week and he told me about this. So I've been so grateful for the opportunity EVIT has given me. I've always wanted to do something in aviation, and I wasn't sure what, pilot, because that's what people think about when it comes to aviation. This program has allowed me to expand my knowledge so much more than I ever thought was possible, and actually has given me knowledge for what I want to do for my career, which is into air traffic control, which I will be starting college for in the fall. But I'm so grateful for this program. It's helped me in ways I never knew was possible.
So you're going to start air traffic controller school in the fall?
Yes, I'm going
Good for
to ASU, the Polytechnic campus.
Excellent.
So I've been accepted into that, and I'm working on scholarships in order to help
That's
me get through
excellent.
that.
How did you hear about EVIT?
So my guidance counselor had called me up because I was planning on graduating high school in 3 years. And she had told me that if I slowed down, it could be paid for, and if there's a program. So I wanted aviation, and she told me about this and signed up, and it's been the best decision I've made.
Wow, what a smart decision by both your counselor and by you. That's really
Yes.
smart. I know Mr. Ahmed mentioned this, but Mom, Dad, as we said before, we know that the quality of the student that we're seeing here is a tribute to them, but it's equally a tribute to you and the work that you do. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to spend time with your son. Very much appreciate it. Board members, do you have questions?
I have a comment. Your tour was exceptional, but mainly to parents. This is one of the most exceptional young men I've ever had the pleasure to meet. He gave a tour, and just his knowledge and his enthusiasm, and just you could tell his intelligence and ambition are just truly impressive. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Justin. And I just wish you the best. I'm excited to see what you do.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I want to add to that also, because I got to be on Justin's tour as well. And I was very impressed with, he knows every crick and cranny of this building. But it's obvious that he has spent a tremendous amount of time here, and that he has dedicated his life to learning this at this young stage, to know exactly what he wants to do. But one of the things that Justin said that I found super impressive was he said that he started out wanting to be a pilot, and after he got into this environment, he realized what he really wanted to be was air traffic control. And then he said that wonderful, amazing thing that we look for as educators, when he said, and this was a great thing that I could figure that out now before I got thousands and thousands of dollars into the wrong thing and the wrong field. And I think that quintessentially is really what EVIT is about, is being able to provide that opportunity for him to learn that at such a young age and be targeted with the direction that he wants to go. But what's really special is that he was able to seize that opportunity and make the most of that opportunity. And that doesn't always happen. And that is a tribute to him and his parents and his family and the environment, his home environment that he finds himself in. So I appreciate you teaching me tonight. That was a wonderful experience to tour with you. So I wish you the best of luck in the future. You're going to be amazing at whatever it is you decide to do. They are lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Mr. President, members of the governing board, we have two campuses, and so I'd like to call Mr. Fisher up from the main campus for the main campus students of the month.
President Lane, school board members, and Dr. Wilson, thank you for this opportunity each month. I'd like to start out first by bringing up Ms. Slade from our behavioral health program for her to talk about one of her amazing students.
Hello, hello. I have a story to share about Miss Emily here. Emily, yes, come up here. Emily has always been a quiet, shy, in her shell kind of student, and I always had to push her. And I pushed her because I saw something in her that she couldn't see in herself. During the time of trying to find an externship site, this was our first year to do externship in a very long time in behavioral health. She just couldn't find a place that would work for her for several reasons. And then one day she just came up to me, I'm sitting at my desk, and she says, "Hey, I found a site." And I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, wait, what? And she says, "Yeah." So with the help of her mom, she went out there on her own, found a place, and that place was called the Ryan House. If you are not familiar with the Ryan House, it's a place that partners with Hospice of the Valley, and they provide care for children with life-altering conditions. And they offer a site of respite care and also hospice care. Again, this is for children. It takes a very special person to be able to handle the situations that come in and out of that place. I honestly don't know that I could do what she did, but during one of my site visits at the Ryan House, I was very fortunate to witness her just bloom and blossom like a butterfly. And I was so impressed with what she was doing over there. I mean, this quiet, shy, in a shell young lady finally found her home. She thrived there. She was touching lives that she didn't even know she touched. And it was just so humbling to see her like in action. She always does everything with a smile on her face. She lights up the room. Like, look at her. She'll smile till the end. I watched her sit and rock a child. Mind you, again, this is a place where they cannot really take care of themselves. Some of them are on feeding tubes. And this child had to be strapped into her rocking chair, and she sat there and loved on that child like it was her own. Until she fell asleep. Emily inspires me. She inspires me to be a better person every day. She has taught me more than I could have ever taught her. And it really is about hope, courage, and love with Emily, especially in this field of behavioral health. And she displays that not only me, but to her peers every single day. Today, I asked all my students before they left for the day, I said, "What was one thing you took away today, Emily?" And she says, "That I can do anything that I put my mind to." And so with that, I congratulate Emily, and I'll let her take the floor. Love you.
Hi, I'm Emily Lynn. I'm in the behavioral health program at EVIT. This is such an amazing opportunity, honestly. this program has really helped me branch out of my shell, and it's truly like my home. I mean, it's a great opportunity. I'm so glad I was able to be in this program. My guidance counselor also recommended me to this program, and I'm so glad she did because I'm so passionate about psychology. I want to major in social work. I'm going to Paradise Valley Community College for my 2 years associate's degree in social work, and then I'm going to transfer over to ASU to get my bachelor's degree in social work, and then go on to get my master's.
That is wonderful. Where's your home high school?
Oh, Cactus Shadows High School. It's in Cave Creek,
Cactus
Arizona.
Shadows in Cave Creek.
Yeah.
And so you come down to the main campus every single day.
Yeah.
Good for you. And you found out about it by your counselor at Cactus Shadows.
Yes.
That's great.
Thank
Do you have parents, guardians? Mom?
Yes, over there.
So I say this to all the parents, but it's a privilege and a pleasure to work with and for your daughter. But we understand that quality students aren't just by chance, it's because quality parenting. So thank you very much for taking the time to let us work with and for your daughter and for raising such a great kid. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And unfortunately, our second student of the month isn't able to be here in person tonight. She's from Tucson, so she wasn't able to get here and be here in person. But I'd still love to have her wonderful instructor from our medical assistant program, Ms. Tellez, come up and talk about her a bit.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Tejas, and I teach medical assisting at the main campus. The student I nominated, her name is Rebecca Messing. She's in my morning class. My morning class is not the normal 2-year high school program. My morning class is a 1-year blended program. So out of 23 students, 12 of them are adults. The rest are high schoolers. Rebecca is in her early 20s. I think she's 23. And you know, her attendance, of course, has been amazing. She's never been late to school, great attitude. And I did not know until February, when I was trying to get the students placed for externship, that she actually lives in Tucson. So I'm trying to place her at her office, and she's like, "Miss, is there any way you can find a place in Tucson?" I said, "Tucson? Why do you want to go to Tucson?" She's like, "No, I live in Tucson." And I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "No, I've been living with a family member during the week so I can come to EVIT." Her family member lives in Casa Grande. So she travels from Casa Grande Monday through Friday to come to EVIT. And then she goes home on the weekends. And I was amazed. Never tardy, wonderful attendance, never has complained, wonderful attitude. And I said, "Yeah, let me find you an office in Tucson." So right before externship, we have this family moment in my class where we talk about our fears and concerns of externship and what it means to work with real patients. And it was her turn to share, and she said, "I'm just happy I get to go back home." And she started crying. And she said, "But it's been worth it. It's been worth it." Later on, she tried out for HOSA. She placed second in regionals and medical assisting. She placed second in state and medical assisting. She's going to internationals. And it's not very common that the adult students want to participate in HOSA. And so I went up to her, I was like, "Man, Rebecca, I'm so proud of you. You've been doing amazing." She's like, "I'm surprised with myself too." And I giggled a little bit, and she said, "No, seriously, I never did good in school. I tried the community college and I couldn't do it. And I just didn't think I could do school. And, you know, my aunt told me about EVIT, and I am so happy I got to do this." So the last bit of exciting news I want to share with everyone is she was offered a job at her externship site. They asked her how much money she wanted. She said 18 to 20, and they said, "We will offer you 20 with full benefits." So before she graduated from EVIT, she's been offered a job at, let me think, Arizona Liver. Oh, it's Arizona Liver something, sorry. It's a liver facility, it's a specialty, and it's also a research center. And She's just really excited. I'm so happy for her. She deserves everyone to applaud her and recognize her and just celebrate her. She's done an amazing job, but she's driving home from work. But thank you for allowing me to nominate an adult student. And thank you. I want to say thank you for supporting adult education. Thank you for making adult education just as important as high school education. Both my husband and I come from trade schools, and this is a really wonderful, important thing that you're doing for the community. So I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tejas. So, Mr. President, members of the governing board, one last thing, and then I'll get off the spot here. I appreciate what Caitlin just said here for so many different reasons, but I think the thing that stuck most to me is this idea of a student who came to us when she had not had success anyplace else, in high school, in the community colleges, in colleges. That story you hear can be told thousands of times, and we need to tell it tens of thousands of times. We are very unique in what we do. And I don't kid around when I say that we have the ability to change the lives of individuals that maybe at one point in time didn't think their life being changed was possible. So again, thank you for the opportunity to recognize and celebrate our students with Students of the Month. Thank you.
All right. You folks, if we would really like you to stay, but you're under no obligation to.
Okay. I do the same thing. I would totally. I don't want to say that. I said that out loud. And with the mic on.
Thank you for coming. All right, next item on our agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 11, 2022. Entertain a motion.
I move we approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
Item 4.
You want me to call the vote?
Yeah. So Tammy, are you keeping track of the motions? Okay. Is there any discussion for the, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion, corrections, concerns? Somebody might want to turn that mic off. We're getting a little feedback. There you go. Need one button pusher. There we go. All right. Mrs. Boggs, our normal board clerk, is not with us yet. She's been delayed. We've asked Mrs. Luke to act in her place, and will you conduct the vote?
Absolutely. Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Hobson?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Luke is aye. McAfee? McAfee,
Hard one.
sorry.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Fleetum?
Aye.
Mr. Watkins? He's not on?
Yeah.
Boggs or Covington are not on either? Okay. So we have 6, looks like 6 aye, so motion carries.
All right, the next item is called to the public. Have we received any requests?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving along to item 6 is the consent agenda. All items will be considered as a group and will be approved with one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. So on our agenda, that would include items A through E. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the items of the consent agenda A through E.
I'll second.
Mr. Hart seconds. Any concerns or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, it's just a question. In looking at some of the requests for travel, all which seemed really reasonable, I didn't see any identification or a line item for per diem. is per diem provided for separately? I mean, to get people to Tennessee for 4 days and not feed them seems to be not right.
State provides a stipend, depends on what city you're going to. They have a book. And
yeah, but
how many meals you're getting,
Correct.
and if they serve breakfast or lunch.
That's separately provided for. Right?
Correct.
That's my only inquiry.
Yeah, they're pretty efficient about figuring out what we're gonna have.
Point is well taken though, because that was not in any of the documents, right? So we're
No,
assuming
I
that
guess
that's
that's an
added.
assumption.
Okay, so we're safe to assume that.
Yeah, nobody's going hungry on our watch. Any other discussion?
Mr. President, Jeff Fleetum, a question on that. Is that then reimbursed through an expense procedure like the rest of many of the other state events? I know when I travel, it's an expense.
It is, Mr. President, Member Freedom. We do have an expense reimbursement form that any of the employees and or board members that do go on travel that submit. We do use a per diem amount that's based on the state's approved amount. And so we basically follow those guidelines.
Thank you very much. That's what I assumed. So thank you.
All right, any further questions? Mrs. Luke, would you conduct the vote, please?
Yeah, Mr. Hart,
Right.
Mr. Hobson.
Aye.
Mr. Lane.
Aye.
Luke is an aye. McAfee. Aye. Mr. Fleetum.
Aye.
Motion
Okay,
carries.
Awesome, thank you. We're gonna reorder the agenda a little bit here. We're gonna move item 8 and consider that next. Feeling is that the discussion in item 8 will drive some of the discussion in item 7. So we were perhaps getting our cart before the horse. So we're gonna move to agenda item 8. Information and discussion. Dr. Wilson, who's gonna present? Mrs. Doolin or yourself?
Mr. President, members of the governing board, item A is Mrs. Doolin's House Bill 2034 update.
Floor is yours.
I don't know if you can see the smile on my face, but I am so excited to be here to present to you on House Bill 2034. It has been a long road, but I first want to thank this board. This idea of really going out on a limb and looking at how we can serve the community and looking at adult education in a different light and upping our game in adult education and going to one EVIT and focusing on the needs of our community couldn't have been done without the board. And so I really want to thank all of you for backing this idea and for believing in us, because I think when it was mentioned, hey, we should get an associate degree, some people looked at us like we might be a little crazy, but guess what? We're not so crazy. So I am really excited to let you know that House Bill 2034 made it out of the House today with a vote of 52 ayes and 5 nays. So it was a bipartisan decision to allow CTEDs in the state of Arizona to be able to award associate degrees. Now, I don't know if you guys know how monumental this really is, but to our knowledge, we are the only CTED in the United States that has made this move. You are breaking ground. You are changing the way education can be delivered to adults. You're putting the focus back on trades and the need for those workers in our everyday lives. I commend you and I commend those who supported us, but there is still a lot of work to be done. I say this to you, the governor should sign off this week. Yay. And then once that happens, really the work begins. And a lot of work is going to happen as we transition and align some of the curriculum, and then also start looking at adding gen eds into and on our campus. That is going to require some additional, I want to be transparent with everyone, it's going to require some additional personnel. And the reward on that is probably going to be a year out, because remember, we're not going to have graduates right away. We have about a year's worth of work to get everything aligned to offer our first associate degree. Right now, it is our plan to start with Surge Tech, meanwhile also working on an RN program, and then at the same time start looking at industrial trades. This is a huge lift, but we are excited to do it. And I just can't thank you enough for all of the support. And I have to thank my partner in crime, Dr. Wilson, who was, I have carted to every event across the state and made him speak about this. And I thank you for supporting this crazy idea.
So, Mr. President, members of the governing board, Mrs. Doolin is being kind. I think the heavy lift has been done by lots of folks besides me. But the point that she makes is, I think, a point that we need to really process and digest. The lift that was done to get there was heavy. The lift needed to become who we expect ourselves to be is even heavier. I don't say it lightly, that if we become who I expect us to be, we will not only fundamentally change the lives of the students that we work with and directly for, I believe we have the ability to begin changing how post-secondary education is processed in the state of Arizona. And I think that is a huge step in the right direction to try to turn the tide in lots of ways that I think are ultimately going to be in the best interest of our state. So I'm very appreciative of you as a governing board and the work that you allowed us to go do. I'm excited about the opportunity that lays ahead of us, but I don't want to undersell the work that has been done, nor the work that has to be done. If you remember, part of the reason when we went down the road of the one EVIT is recognizing that if we're going to begin leaning into post-secondary, that's a bit different than K-12, right? I mean, I'm a K-12 guy, but that doesn't mean that I know about post-secondary. So we needed to start bringing in individuals that have post-secondary experience, as we will. Post-secondary and K-12 have a different pay scale. And so we've been working towards trying to blend those in such a way that makes sense, that it's respectful to both ends. So there's a heavy lift that still has to occur, but I can't tell you how proud I am and how excited I am to be in an organization that truly puts students first. I've told you this before. A lot of organizations say it. I don't think many do it. You all say it, and we actually do it. So thank you for that. Item B, unless you have questions for myself or Mrs. Doolin. It's all CTEDs, all CTEDs. Westmac could be, but we're positioned more so, yes.
I just want to tell you guys congratulations, because I do work in the post-secondary environment. And I didn't think you could do it. I told you we would. I had some conversations with Miss Doolin off the record. And I bowed. I'm telling you, congratulations. That
We
was
didn't
amazing.
stop. I mean, really, I know he's being modest, but I really truly drug him all over the state. He has been everywhere, meeting with people just so that we could get this across the finish line.
Well, whatever your formula is, you found the magic.
I never doubted it, not for 1 second.
Mrs. Doolin, Jeff Fleetum here. I
Yes.
suspect you didn't have to do much dragging Dr. Wilson with you.
Oh,
I think he
did.
probably came along, but we'll call it drag.
No, it was
no,
dragging in the
no.
beginning, trust me.
Just the opposite. In fact, it was one of the most painful experiences I've had, but it was well worth it.
Well, I'm very excited about it. Thank you for what you did. I had my questions about it on whether or not it could get done, but congratulations, that's a big lift. So thank you very much for what you've done.
Thank you. And thank you all again for giving us the opportunity to really look at servicing our communities differently. Very much appreciate it. Item B, simulation lab main campus. Several meetings ago, we came to you with a discussion about the simulation lab needed at the main campus so that we could provide opportunities for our health science programs to get the learning that they deserve. And we went at the time we went with the JOC, a job order contract. There was some concern about us being able to get the best, most efficient price. And so what we said is we would go work with Chase and we would come back to you with what that final price is going to be before we actually started doing any of the work so that you could feel comfortable that we did get the best and most fair price we could get for that job order contract sim lab at the main campus. And so I'd like to ask Matt from Chase. Matt, are you here? If you and Don and everybody, the whole crew, the whole Motley crew. Could kind of come up and walk us through what you're proposing and how we got there.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Mr. President, members of the board. Just as a quick side note, I have to tell you as architects, and that's Neil and myself, as contractors with McCarthy, there's nothing more satisfying than having the tenant, if you will, which is you, actually participating in a facility that there was a lot of hard work putting this together and being able to have this for you. There's nothing more satisfying than to see you actually using it. And then to be part of a tour that was conducted by one of the students, as in Justin. Justin was also, I was on that tour. And he was a gentleman that wanted to be, is working toward being an air traffic controller. And I can tell you he's going to be a good one, because we were up on the second floor in that little huddle room where all the planes are hanging. And I asked him, I said, weren't those planes over there on the main, over there on the building just next door? And I pointed this way. I said, weren't they over there before? And he goes, yes, they were over there before, like that. So I know he's going to be a good traffic controller just by correcting me in doing that. So Dr. Wilson mentioned about all the hard work that we've been working on with the simulation lab at your main campus. This is Matt Wedding, the project director for Chase Building Team. And Neil and I, working with him, and also Darlene Cadman from SPS Plus, just putting together the drawings. I know that you have some information in your packet that kind of shows where this building is going to be at, or the area for the sim lab is going to be located in the health science building. We also took a look at the existing space and realized that just from talking with your staff and the instructors, that space was not going to work for what they needed for the simulation lab. And so we went through and we redesigned that space. But by redesigning, we also took a look at what can we still use that's already there, as in mechanical equipment. Are there some doors that we just don't need to throw away that we can actually relocate? They can still look new and be part of the actual final design of that space. And by going through that and then working with Matt and his team to be able to go through and actually come up with the numbers. And I don't want to speak totally for him, but I know that the numbers that are presented to you is what we would call a guaranteed maximum price. It's not going to go any higher. The contractor will still work hard and get competitive bids from their subcontractors and even work on improving that number. Could it get better? It has a possibility. Will it get worse than that? No, we're saying that this is what it's going to cost to be able to do that. So the goal is to be able to move forward, so we have an opportunity to be able to order equipment and to be able to get this facility up and running and do the work over the summertime. So when you start school, that we have something there that you can use. So Matt, if you have anything, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys on this project. And one thing I was reminded of tonight is seeing all the kids get all the awards, how important it is for the engagement. I know this is kind of a smaller, quick hitting, short duration project, but I just want to make sure, we all keep in mind what we can do to help the students be involved. So we want to make sure that we utilize every opportunity that we can, starting now up front in the pre-construction process to, keep them involved through the process. So definitely look forward to it.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, it's our health science building now that has some just empty space. Well, Ms. Dillon, you want to speak to it?
It is actually so I'll tell you what happened with this space. This space was actually built as simulation and skills lab breakout. However, when it was originally designed, it was designed several years ago before SIM was where it is now. That's the first thing to remember. And number two, it was a poor design. I know that sounds really bad, but it was a poor design for where simulation has taken us. As you can see on the old design, there's a hallway that runs through behind the sims where the simulation is occurring, and that's where each of the three areas would sit to run a sim. You can't have that because you hear feedback from the other rooms. So there was a lot of little things that were wrong, and the space was extremely large, almost a waste of space. So since this has been built, it has never been used as a sim lab because it was built as a sim lab but wasn't functional. So that was the idea that we went into it, was to try to save as much space as we can, to reformat the space to make it actually function as a sim lab, and then but not use as much as existing space and resources that were there to save taxpayer money. So that was part of the thought process as we went into this plan. I will tell you, this is an essential space. Maybe we put the cart before the horse here because we went ahead and started doing this. for where we're going with the associate degree. The nursing, the paramedic, the CNA, the LPN, EMT will all share and use this space. It will be a highly used space. It will be live action simulation. Some of you I know on my board have experience with simulation and know how valuable it is. So that's what we're doing with the space. That's what it was before.
So, Mr. President, members of the governing board, when we came to you originally, the discussion was to have some assurance that we were getting the best price point for the quality of work that we need. We met with Chase on several occasions and went over the design, the programming with Don and Neil's help in terms of the schematics, and came back to a price point in which I think the square footage is like, what is it, 140?
I think we're just under 140 a square foot.
Just under $140 square foot in renovation, which initially to me was like, oh my gosh. But as we went and looked and talked with others, that is a very competitive price. And as Don said, that price has the potential to go down as they go out and do the hard bids on the subcontractors. And so I'm open to questions, concerns that you may have, but I told you I'd bring back to you the hard number before we progressed.
You said that hard number was, I'm sorry, how much?
So 469 is what they're saying. It will not exceed. That makes 149, I believe, or just under 140, 139 dollars per square foot in terms of the renovation.
So what, we have any idea what it's going to run to equip it once we're built?
So we already have the equipment for it. The equipment is in a air conditioned and storage area. So that once the facility is built out, we can put the equipment in and begin the processing.
All that equipment, has it ever been used?
No, we've only had it like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, did you say $469 per square foot?
No, $469,000, 140, under $140, like 139 per square foot for the renovation.
Okay.
So I'd like to add something here. Thanks to the Chase folks for Jeff Fleetum here for jumping in and putting together a project where you might use perfectly good material rather than throwing it in the roll-off. So that is always good when we're considering taxpayer dollars. And it will be very exciting to have a space that actually that is actually built to do the things it's supposed to do. So to have a sim lab that is actually built as a sim lab rather than just something else. Right, Ms. Doolin?
That is correct.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot for your presentation. Thank you.
Mr. President, I do have to mention, Dr. Wilson, I do have to mention that when you look at that price, which is just under $470,000, it does not have any contingency in there, which means, especially when you're doing remodeling, if we tear something out, remove something from a ceiling, all of a sudden there's a surprise. You never know what's behind a wall. That there's nothing there right now to safeguard what that could cost. And so this is a number without any contingency. Normally when we go into remodeling, you'd like to carry something, or if we don't carry something, there's a possibility that we could have to come back and say, hey, we ran into something that was unforeseen. And then we'd have to present that to you at that time.
Is there an Jeff Fleetum here again, is there an opportunity to consider adding your contingency in here, what you would think it is, or you're just, you would rather stay away from that, not knowing on this building?
I think one of the reasons we talked about the contingency when we met on this project, one of the reasons we weren't as concerned is this is relatively one of our newest buildings. So that made us feel a little bit better. It's not a new build. It is just a TI, a tenant improvement, and it is in one of our newest building.
Thanks,
But
Mrs.
there are
Doolin.
no guarantees.
Well, no. My thought was, this looks like a great price, and that square footage looks like a great price, $470,000. Hoping that the contingency or the comeback wouldn't be something in the 25% range of this bid. So
5%.
They're telling me about 5%, Mr. Speaker.
Which would say a $20,000 to $25,000 contingency, I think would be wise.
I don't know if you can see me nod my head. That's what I assumed. So
Any other questions or concerns?
I have a question. When is this supposed to be finished?
Great question. The goal is to have it finished in time for school to start. And so part of what we part of what we are under is a bit of a timeline because we committed to come back with numbers before we started the build. But now that we have the build, part of the the JOC timeline was to have it done so our students can use it.
So if you had to guess on it, 0 to 100% chance of it being done, what would you say it has a chance of being done by the time school starts?
Well, we project that we would start, if it gets approved tonight, towards the end of May, and we'd be done the first week of August.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
And I did tell them that I could work around if they got any delays to the end of August, but no further.
So unless there are other questions or concerns, we can move on to item C, Mr. President, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, we're gonna need to come back and vote that, or?
You've already
We're
released the
already approved
JOC,
it.
but I just said I wouldn't allocate the dollars until I came back to you.
So it's full speed ahead.
Very good.
All right.
Item C, parent marketing survey. Every single year, we seek feedback from our parents on what's working well and what's not working well. I think as an organization, sometimes it's really easy to get uncomfortable with feedback because oftentimes people view that as something negative. Our view is that feedback allows us to get better. So we share with you every single year the results that we get back. There are some items in the survey that we as a organization will be mindful of. As you see some of the comments, in terms of some of the parking issues, especially at the main campus, some issues in terms of classroom management with certain programs that we can work on and work towards. I think we already have solutions to some of those issues, at least that we're talking about. One of the things that I think is important too is that we always look at percent that would grade their experience with EVIT this year. And this year it was at 94%, meaning that 94% of the parents that we surveyed indicated that their experience with EVIT would be in either an A or a B. I'm competitive. And so I always look at what the year was before. And the year before was 97%. I said, what the heck? So I said, what was the year before that? And the year before that was 86%. And so one of the things I think that we experienced last year, and this is a credit to as a governing board for making the difficult decision. I think when we stayed open during COVID, it was an environment that we were open and hardly anybody else was. So just the very fact that we were open, I think bought us some goodwill. What I then am more pleased about is that when you look at 2002 versus 2020 or 2022 versus 2020, we're still above the 90th percentile in terms of parent satisfaction, A or B. Same kind of thing. Would you recommend EVIT to families? This year, 98% parents said absolutely. They'd recommend EVIT to other families. Last year was 99. I'm like, oh. But again, if you look back at what it was 2020, 95%. So compared to the off year of COVID, we're still trending in the right direction. I think one of the challenges that we have, and again, I'm not Mr. Blame COVID, but more of our students had barriers this year attending EVIT. And remember, barriers can be transportation, barriers can be a lot of different things. I think in some cases, the post-COVID learning challenge that may have happened on some of our partnering district campuses may have made it a bit more difficult for students to participate at EVIT than the barriers were more difficult than what years past. Part of what we're doing in our IGA is continue to work with our partnering districts to make sure that we lessen the barriers so students can have the opportunity to be here. And so we will go through the comments as an organization to make sure that we're mindful of some of the concerns that are raised. But I do think it's important not only that we not only solicit feedback from our parents, but that you also have an opportunity to have that as well. So I'd be happy to discuss it tonight or bring it back at a later time because that's a lot of information that maybe you're just getting your eyes on.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I have to do it too.
Is it you? Is it me?
Was there a recurring theme? I tried to read through all of this. That's a lot of data. And when
Yeah.
I have more time to digest, I plan to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering from your perspective, did you see a few recurring themes?
Yeah, good question. So a couple recurring themes. One is something that we can't necessarily control. It's parents wishing that our breaks aligned up with their home district breaks. The challenge with that is that because we service 12 school districts, unless all 12 school districts have the same holidays, we're never going to be aligned with all of them. And so what we try to do is to look at our partnering district calendars ahead of time and see, can we match up with as many as possible? Because a third of our partnering districts are on modified year-round calendars. A third kind of have the same sort of calendar. A third are just kind of one organization band. And so what we try to do is to do the best we can to line up with as many as possible, but we're not going to be able to line up with all. And that was one of the reoccurring things. The second thing was transportation. The transportation barriers. Again, our partnering districts are part of the IGA is to transport students. And so some of our districts had experienced challenges this year in terms of driver shortage, in terms of bus shortage that may have caused some of those issues. The third theme that I saw, Ms. Luke, was kind of a rolling narrative around I'm going to say classroom management, but I don't know that that's completely fair to say. I think one of the things that we have to be far more diligent in as an organization is setting up systematic expectations, procedures across all of our classrooms from the day one. Because as those of us in education know, if if the toothpaste gets out of the tube, it's really, really hard to get it back in. And so we've got to make sure that we all are on the same page as far as what toothpaste comes out of the tube and what doesn't. And then we all hold to it. And so I think you saw some of that too as kind of an inconsistency in expectations as it relates to classroom management across the system. So those would be three trends that I noticed when I did the kind of read of the data. On the flip side to it is, I think there is far more recognition and appreciation for the work we do. I think you'll see a reoccurring thing time and time again. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for offering the opportunity that you're offering. Thank you for the associate degree. The last thing that I'm thinking about, the fourth trend of maybe not so good, was frustration with dual enrollment. There was quite a bit of concern, and even though it wasn't necessarily an us issue, we're the facilitators of it. And there was some concern about the logistics of it, concern about what it was going to actually translate to, the cost associated of it. So those would be the four in the area of challenges, in the area of opportunities and successes. I think you'll read time and time again that folks are happy that we do the work that we do.
Do you find with the development of being able to offer associate degrees now, do you find or have you considered that there might be some avenues that we weren't able to take before that we'll be able to assist or mitigate circumstances with the enrollment challenges?
Absolutely. A couple. So one of them being, and so one of the things that we agreed to in our associate bill is to articulate to students where our associate will to communicate where our associates would articulate to, right? So that students will know coming into our program that if they complete our associates, this is where they can take that associates and continue on and get a bachelor's, which is fair. I think that we should do that. I think that we should be, diaphanous with our families and our communities. In that same respect, though, I believe that our community college partners need to do the same, because I think oftentimes what our students and families are thinking that their courses will translate to don't. So if we're going to partner, then we believe before we do that, that there needs to be a clear map laid out from what our courses and what the dual enrollment will actually count towards and to from the community colleges. And I think that will be one great way in which I think we can help our families and students actually get what they believe that they're getting.
So I had a question. A couple of the comments were relating to the early mornings, and I know that relates back to the sending districts with the 0 hours. And we talked about the IGAs and maybe trying to work something out. Would the dual enrollments possibly help with that? Maybe getting more accredited? Where are we at with trying to eliminate these kids having to start school at 6 a.m. their senior year?
So that's a great question. So part of the IGA discussion that we're currently having, and Director of Legal Services could speak to this the next time, but part of the IGA discussion is exactly that we believe that there's a couple things. We believe there's far more embedded credit opportunities that the State Board of Education has agreed to in programming that we offered, that if our sending districts accepted that, it would allow there to be less need for students to be on the campuses and potentially have to take the 0 hour or the 6th hour, right? Because if they can come, use fire science, if they can come to fire science and also get a PE credit, whatever. That might be the credit they needed that would prevent them from having to take the 0 hour because they could take the US Arizona history first hour, or whatever the case is. And so part of the IGA discussion is to ask our sending districts to be far more responsive to accepting the embedded credits that the Arizona Board of Regents have approved is the first one. The second one is that within our programming, if we work with our sending districts to align their curriculum and ours to be the same and have the end result industry certifications the same, in that band of courses that we believe we can grow our associates into, can we then articulate that credit offering even though the student didn't come here? So for example, student may want to stay at Apache Junction High School in their welding program, it's ours anyway, but in their welding program and not come here. So it doesn't have the issue of the early morning, but still have the ability and the benefit of having the dual enrollment opportunity through us because our program curriculums and outcome expectations have been aligned. So it's those two areas that we think will give us the ability. The third, and this is the real one, is there's a piece of state statute that limits, that flat out says districts can't prevent students from attending a CTED only because the district wants to capture a full ADM. So that means the 4 hours a day. A lot of the issues, the 4 hours a day. Part of our ask is for the sending districts to adhere to the statute. Because if we said, if our sending districts stopped requiring students to take 4 hours before they came, we would not have nearly the need of the 0 hour or the 8 hour because they could take care of that within their schedule. So it's those three areas that we think we're going to be able to get traction in the IGA this year. Unless there's any other questions for me, Mr. President. Oh, Mr. Robson, I'm sorry.
I have a question. I want to be careful about this. The comments that collected, are they anonymous or are they tied to individuals?
They are anonymous, but you clearly, there's mention of certain programming that we're aware of. And so.
Well, it's not the programming. There's one of the comments that I was really alarmed about, and I don't want to get into it in public session, but I would assume if the comments are not anonymous, that we've done an inquiry or doing an inquiry, and we're going to address that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Unless there's anything else for me, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Ms. Doolan?
I'm sorry, I have one more question. You mentioned that one of the solutions to some of these barriers is working with sending districts to reduce the requirement for the student to be on their campus from 4 hours to 3.
Correct.
Have you ever done that before, and what was the outcome?
So the statute is currently there, and we have said it really loud, and nobody's listened.
Okay.
So the question becomes at some point, and this is where we'll come back to you, ultimately, the majority of the 9 controls what programs are approved and not approved within our satellites. And so the leverage of saying, no, we expect our partners to adhere to state statute can be more than just us saying it loud. It can be a requirement that unless it is the case, programs aren't approved. And we know it's not the case. I know that's like, well, how do you prove it, right? I can go on our campus right now and talk to 10 kids and they'll tell you the reason why they couldn't come or they couldn't come in the AM is because they had to do 4 hours. Now, is that admissible in court? I don't know, but starting to dig a bit deeper that way, I think begins kind of moving the needle a little bit.
So you feel like you've got some leverage to try and force.
I think you
that
all
door
have
open.
leverage.
We
Yeah, you have leverage.
Okay, to force.
I
that
don't,
door
I'm just
open.
I just schlep around the state, but you all have leverage.
Okay, well then you need to teach us how to use that because we're gonna try and help with that a little bit.
You're too relaxed. You are the point of the spear.
I feel that.
Thank you. That was item 8, and now we're going to go back and cover item number 7, the personnel piece of this. So we've got several sections. Would you guys rather us vote the whole personnel agenda, or do we want to carve it up into little bits and pieces, or you want to present? What do you have in mind?
Mr. President, members of the governing board, we'd be happy to do anything that met your needs. There's quite a bit of information there. And so Part of this is a response to some of the questions I believe that were asked of Mr. Fleetham, some of the, in terms of looking at some of our salaries, I think Mr. Hobson. So we'd be happy to unpack those or not. It just depends on the direction that the governing board would like to go.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to make a motion that we approve the personnel A through G.
Second.
Anybody have any discussion?
Mr. President, Jeff Fleetum here. I am confident that that Dr. Wilson and his staff have taken my questions and they're moving in that direction to make sure that's handled the best way possible within our, within the system that we can do. So thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Mr. Fleetham, is there a specific item that you had in mind that you'd like to explore further before we vote?
No, I'm comfortable with the fact that Dr. Wilson and his staff have taken the actions that that are required to search out those opportunities and those ability to change some of that stuff that we can. So,
Dr. Wilson, is there anything you would like to bring forward before we vote?
Mr. President, members of the governing board, not specifically. I think, we constantly are looking for ways to be competitive, but also be mindful. We're not a private institution, we're a public institution. And so there's a balancing act that we have to always work towards and work down. And I think that Mrs. Perez and her team have done a really nice job respecting that we're a public institution, but realizing that in many cases, some of the positions that we're trying to fill aren't going to be able to be filled purely based on a public institution structure. So no, and unless there's specific questions, I just appreciate what Ms. Perez and her staff has done based on some of the direction that was given by the governing board.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any items to discuss within that? And Mrs. Boggs, let's vote.
What exactly are we voting for right now?
This is the personnel, item 7, A through H, I think, or G, excuse
Okay,
me.
but what is the action that we're approving? The
Well, each of those
contracts that we're
things, it's-
approving?
So A is the personnel, they go according to the attachments, and then approving the fingerprint cards, contracts,
Okay,
hiring guidelines for certified, hiring guides for hourly, hiring guidelines for exempt,
okay,
and
I
then
just
position
wasn't
changes.
realizing that we needed to vote for people resigning. So that was where my confusion was, but
Well,
got
this, yeah, we have to approve the new contracts every year. This is that time.
got it. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Fox.
McAfee.
Aye.
Luke.
Aye.
Lane.
Aye.
Hobson.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Boggs is an aye, and Fleetum.
Aye.
Did I get everybody?
So,
Okay, motion carries.
okay, now I'm gonna ping pong back to item 9. Item 9, action item to revise cosmetology tuition fees for school year 22-23. Entertain a motion and before we have any discussion.
I move to approve this with all of my heart.
Okay, we have.
I'll second.
Mr. Hart seconded. Any discussion?
I do.
Okay.
I taught this program for a lot of years. This is a huge issue, the dress code. Teachers fought about it, students fought about it, and I actually asked when I was teaching if we could just move to scrubs and just eliminate all of the battling back and forth. Rhonda, can you speak on that?
Sure. I'm learning to love cosmetology. But I will tell you, I think the important part on this one that I would like to mention is when Dr. Wilson discussed earlier about some of those themes that we saw, we're looking for opportunities to improve. It's not just that we saw those themes and we don't do anything with them. He challenges us to come up with ideas that will help with the classroom management. I will tell you, this will be a huge help in cosmetology with the classroom management, some of those things of accountability, responsibility, one teacher doing it different than another. By making a standard across the board that's easy for my directors, the directors of EVIT to instill and see, they can then make sure the faculty are holding the students responsible and the directors can be able to hold the faculty responsible, which then just raises that bar and improves those outcomes that so we are taking to heart what the survey says and looking for opportunities to improve. And this is one of them.
I wish. I'm not kidding. I can't tell you the battles, the hourly minute battles we had there. So I think this is going to be great. Not everybody's going to love coming in scrubs, but the teachers are going to love not having to battle that.
Well, I think like we've said before, you have a difficult challenge on the front end and the back end's way easier. If you don't have the difficult challenge on the front end, the back end's way, way harder. So putting some of these things into place now so that we start that way and we hold ourselves to that standard will only in time make it a heck of a lot easier than what we currently have in some situations right now.
So much easier. Oh, all right. McAfee. Aye. Luke. Aye. Lane.
Aye.
Hobson. Hart.
Aye.
Freedom.
Aye.
Boggs is an aye. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, Mr. President, we can't hear you. I think, is your microphone turned off?
No, let me do that again. I'll learn. Item 9B is a discussion and action regarding the donor's choice donations. We pulled this from the consent agenda at our last regular meeting. And now it's been brought back with further information from staff. But I believe it's appropriate that we have a motion and a second on the table before we have any further discussion. Do I have a motion?
Are we moving
So
to
moved
approve
to
this?
discuss.
To approve the
So you
donor's
have to approve it.
choice
Okay.
donation, or donor's choose, I'm sorry.
Backwards every time.
That's item 9B.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Hobbs. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. McAfee, I believe. Okay. Mrs. Boggs, do you have questions or?
Questions. Really, honestly, I have comments more so than anything that will probably stir up some questions, which is fine. I'm looking at all these donations and I had asked Dr. Wilson, does EVIT really not have money to purchase these things for teachers? Like, are we hurt that we have to use donors choose and an outside source to get things that staff need, that teachers need? I don't like that. Like, there's a problem with it. On top of that, with these teachers wanting these donations through that source, the word equity bothers me. And although, it's become political, I hate politics in education. I hate politics anyway, but in education, it does not belong here. And that word brings politics to our school. It's tied to racism, the color of skin. I've watched teaching in high schools. I've watched students who grew up being friends all of a sudden can't be friends anymore because of the color of their skin. That stuff's taught. It's not, you're not born racist, it's taught, and it's being taught in that school, in schools through the word equity. And so it bothers me that email went out to staff. It gives a green light to these teachers that, and I'm not saying EVIT teachers are wanting to do this, but there might be somebody who's chomping at the bits to bring the social justice, political stuff into EVIT. And EVIT is good. You read the comments. We don't have parents beating down the door to come at us for all of this stuff. Kids are happy here. And they're happy because they don't have to be told the color of their skin makes them oppressed or an oppressor. And I can't take that. And so the email that went out told staff that EVIT is equity focused, and we are not an equity focused school. We are for equality, and we are for equality for all kids, no matter what color your skin is. There.
I have a comment along with Ms. Boggs had mentioned about the fact, and when I was looking at these items down here, not even considering who they were coming from, I thought the same thing. Is we at EVIT, we don't have the kind of fund, we lack the funds to supply our instructors with the tools that they need to educate the students that come here. That was my concern.
Along those lines, can I ask a question? How did these things get on a list? Because I just clicked on a few links about Donor's Choice, and it looks like there are teachers that, not necessarily from EVIT, but from wherever, that post and say, hey, my goal is $564 to buy these things. Can somebody donate $564 for me to go buy these things? So it looks like it initiates with the teachers. This list right here that we're looking at, did that list initiate with our teachers, or did it initiate with Donor's Choice saying, hey, someone donated some bubble inclinometers. Who could use those? And they said, we can at EVIT. Like, how did this list originate?
My understanding, and all I know is whatever on their website, is the teachers make the request, and then the donors go through the list of requests, and they can donate what they want. And the day that that email went out was they were matching one for one. So the teachers, some of them, donate out of their own pocket so they could double their money. So that particular day, it was 2 for 1.
Where's
So-
the accountability? Is there any, like, do the teachers just request stuff and get different? Because I've also found some links where teachers are requesting things that, not in EVIT, in other schools, that I'm like, why do they need that in their school? So where's the oversight? Do they have to go through superintendent approval? Does it, the principal, a director, or do they teachers just request it and they get it without any accountability?
I don't know how the individual school districts do it, but the way the thing started, when it started in like 2010 was just a handful of teachers that needed stuff, and they just started a website. They posted what they needed, and then people donated it. That just grew into what it is now.
So I
They
have
were
a
just
question.
Basically the conduit.
Sorry. So I have a question. Last time we brought this up, we talked about the equity thing and qualifications in order to qualify for these donations. We were going to look into, are there stipulations that are tied to these if we choose to accept these donations? Are there in fact any stipulations that we would be tied to, demographics or otherwise?
There are not, and I'm still not convinced that we qualify, because the statistics they have on our schools that we have 170 students. So plainly we have more than that. So I don't know where they got their statistics from, but
So if we don't qualify, and these are needs of teachers,
I don't know that we
gonna
don't
be able, we're
qualify.
going to be able to honor some of these, right? If we don't qualify for it?
I don't know that we don't. The qualification is more than 50% minority and more than 50% on the free lunch program. I don't have the data to answer that.
I just want to make sure that however this goes
All of
down,
our
oh, please let me talk. That these requests that these teachers have, if they are legitimate requests, that we have to make sure we're helping them to get what they need. And if EVIT can do that without the assistance of being equity focused, then I would like us to do that instead of being equity focused.
So there's a lot that is here. So, EVIT certainly has the ability to meet the needs of most requests that come to us. And I think that we're very good about that. At the same time, we're also mindful that we have short-term, long-term goals that we just can't say yes to everything. But we may say yes to something that's 3 years down the road, but say no to it today. Doesn't mean it's not a bad thing. But if a staff member is able to secure what we were saying is 3 years down the road today, and I don't know that this is the case here, 3 years down the road today, then I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing either. Everything that's on here is material that is ultimately approved by the governing board. In some ways, it's no different, and I know it is, but just hear me out. It's no different than we accept donations from everybody and their brother to help in a number of different ways. And so I would be cautious that we start not looking for ways to offset our resources, just in a general statement, right? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the deeper question is in this, do we have, as Mr. Hart said, responsibility towards some sort of programming that is inherently conditional to us receiving these? The answer to that, I believe, is no. The concern about it is that the language that is used reflects language that is not supported. And we have within in our district policy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director of Legal Services, we have in our district policy that specifically says we are not going to be going down the road. We will not be teaching these things that are inherently not part of what you as a governing board have established. So in there, I think is the pathway towards, in my opinion, could be wrong, towards a solution that seems to make sense, that EVIT does not play a role in teaching exactly what you just described. That's not who we are. Even if that's what I believe as an individual, what we teach is inherently different based on the programs that our students are in, right? I mean, what students come here to learn how to become a professional in an area that they are believe passionately in. So that's what we teach them. So just inherently what we do, even if I believed it, inherently what we do doesn't lend itself to that. But even if it lent itself to that, we have a policy that says, no, we're not going to do that. So then it becomes incumbent upon us as administration to make sure that if we see individuals either through their direct instruction or through curricular adoption leaning in towards a direction that is not supportive of what we've said, that we address that with those individuals and potentially not take a step away from having the opportunity to receive resources that actually our organization might need, even though we might be able to afford it. We look for multiple different ways to offset what we need without taxing our budget.
Okay, so here's my next question. The teachers requested this, and then it came to us to vote on. Did anybody see it before it came to us? Did the principal see it? Did the director see it? Did you guys see it and you were okay with it and then it came to us? It's the accountability that, because I don't want to see like a teacher request, 30 books on critical race theory. Oh, good. Now my students can all learn this.
Right.
That's the stuff. And
So would it be reasonable? Would there be reason? Because to answer your question, I believe the answer is no, because I didn't see it till it came here. So is an off landing spot that makes sense that before we have anybody requesting anything like this, that there's a check mechanism put in place that says administration must review before we post and ask. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay,
Because-
accountability is good.
Yeah, because my question was, did someone, I'm just curious if a teacher came and said, I need 5 Ryobi cordless drills, and they were told, no, I'm sorry, you can't have them. And then they said, oh, well, then let me go on Donor's Choice and see if they'll help me out. So I'm having a hard time with the time continuum here
Right.
and what came first. Or is this just a way to get extra, right? you
So I think
understand
it's a combination of the two. Like I said, in some cases, we may say when we have plans with our staff for resources that they need, they want ABC, and we will say, well, we can get ABC over the next 3 years, but we can't get ABC for everybody. So that this year we're going to get A, but the teacher may say, well, I'm going to go out and secure BC through a third party. That is part of it. The other part of it might be, as a teacher, I just say, you know what? It's good. The district bought 3 drills, but man, if I had 6, that's even better.
Okay, so is it safe to assume that for every single one of these requests, there is a specific teacher's name linked with each one of these
Yes,
requests?
absolutely.
So who compiled this list? How did this list even get compiled? Where's the clearinghouse on this?
But is it who compiles the request for all of that?
There is a inventory specialist who takes in all the forms.
Okay,
and
so there was a
checks everything.
form, there's a form that is linked with each one of these, one of
Correct.
these requests.
Correct.
So a teacher filled out a form, turned the form in, the form put it on this list. This list gets compiled, it comes to the board.
I think the step that you're all seeing that potentially could be added would be
Is-
that after the teacher fills out the form, it goes to their director to be signed
approval.
off
I agree.
before it
That's
goes to our purchasing.
Could, I'd like to add some, can I jump in here for a second? I've been on the Construction Advisory Council for a long time, before I was part of the governing board. And the construction groups frequently get requests and donate material or tools as needed. There's really not a list that goes out. Somebody will just say we need, a bunk of plywood, and that'll show up. I think that Mr. Hart mentioned this. Any of these kind of things that we get have to be, there can't be extra conditions added to it. It has to be no conditions. In other words, this happens, this company donates this, whether it be a construction company, whether it be me, whether it be somebody else, that there's no additional conditions that are placed on EVIT to do anything other than, cool, I'm taking this stuff, we'll use this stuff. So that's the problem. That's the thing that I was concerned about with this organization. Ms. Boggs touched on it, was what are the conditions for us accepting these things? Aside from the fact that we have to qualify by having a certain amount of people that are on free lunch programs, and we have to have a certain demographic to do that. Does that make any sense, or did I just ramble an extra 3 or 4 minutes for nothing? So
I think I want to refine that just a little bit, Mr. Freedom, and address Mr. Colbell with this. Is there an implied agreement that if EVIT were to accept these donations, would there be any kind of implied agreement that EVIT would have to reach some kind of a standard or some kind of a, okay.
No, there's not. And I've just been passed a note from some unknown source, but it says most of these items are purchased with $1,000 grants that came from the state. And the state just uses donor choose to funnel the money to us. So there were just out and out grants from the state.
I think maybe we ought to look at a little bit of policy and perhaps stipulate that before teachers seek any kind of donation, that it be tied to a standard within their course.
I think that's fair.
And I don't see anything here that looks out of whack to me, but then also make sure that our policy for accepting gifts stipulates that there are no strings attached, that when it's gifted, it's ours to do, and there is no expectation of return or remuneration or action on our part to benefit the donor.
Correct. With the one caveat I would put on there is donors can tell us what they want us to do with the donation. So people donate a car, for example, they can say they want it to be for student.
To go the auto
right,
program,
right.
They probably don't want it to go to cosmetology or fashion design.
And I think the point that was made.
But that would go with the thing where if we solicited a gift, it would need to be tied to a standard, a state standard in that course.
I think the point that was made over here, which is valid, that also at the same time too, that there needs to be an oversight. I mean, they're tied to the standard. It makes total sense, but I think having one of our directors or having a director make sure that that is what it is makes
tied to a
sense.
standard.
And I think that's a piece that we
I think
should put
that's
in.
due diligence, and then we just make sure that our policy, we probably had to issue some sort of receipt for these that it's indicated that there is no expectation of performance or otherwise on our part. The gift is a gift free and clear of any expectation.
So I was going to ask if it would be worth amending the motion to state that we are in full well knowledge that we don't qualify for what they say that we need to be as far as equity based, and that there are no stipulations to accepting the donations.
I don't know that we don't. I just know that they don't have all the numbers.
Well, I guess just stating the fact that we may not qualify, and we're well aware of that.
Well,
Is there another vehicle that we can communicate what we're trying to communicate other than just a motion? Is there another vehicle in, what is the process that we go through to accept this donation? Do we just vote and then that's it? Or is there a document that gets signed? Is there some message that's sent back to Donor's Choice? How do all of these pieces connect between now and when the Ryobi drill shows up in a package on the doorstep?
I don't know the process.
Okay, because I think that would be an important piece, because I think at that point we can know kind of what avenue we can take to make the communication, the statement that we want to make. Somewhere between here and when the products show up, there's a process that this is going to go through, correct?
Moving
Let's go through
forward, yes, Ms.
inventory.
Luke. What we've identified about what we just talked about is before, we're going to have to adopt a process, write a process that would require that a director sign off before they could ever solicit to donor's choice.
I've looked through the list. I don't see any issues with other things that I've seen from other schools. That's not that's not, and none of what they've requested is my issue. I want to make sure that we have a very clear message to staff that we are not equity focused. We are not teaching racism. We are not focused on the color of skin. I don't ever want to hear that out of a teacher's mouth. I cannot stand it. It is causing such a divide. And it's unnecessary. That's all I care about. The donate, whatever they need, it's great. When you see someone wanting something that looks like they want to start teaching racism in your class, in this school, then that's when we throw it out. That's not acceptable. We're not doing it.
What does that look like?
It looks like a book called
So-
Critical Race Theory.
So
That's the
tell me if this makes sense.
That wouldn't be tied to our standards.
No.
So
wouldn't.
tell me, I think Ms. Luke, what you're indicating is there's a process we have in place right now. And is there a landing spot that we can have now
Yeah,
that articulates that we're not? And I don't know. I mean, there's receipts that come back. I guess the point is that I think Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, and the research he's done is that there is no quid pro quo. There's no expectation. There's nothing. We just get the material because it's coming from a third party donor. So in there though, back to Ms. Boggs's point, the issue isn't necessarily the stuff that's coming in. It's that we don't want to be beholden to something as an organization that ultimately isn't who we expect ourselves to be. Part of the solution is Mr. Lane's suggestion that we recraft a policy that says anything that is donation has to be connected to a standard and reviewed by a director, as was Ms. Doolin's suggestion. But I also think there may be a value in, I periodically will send out an email to the staff, talking about all that we're doing and the challenges and the successes. I can attach the policy that I believe the governing board passed, was it 2 years ago, but never rescinded, that specifically states what we do and what we don't do, as another affirmation that at the end of the day, kids come here because they want to learn to be CNAs, welders, cosmetology. That's what they come, and that's what we're going to do. Everything outside of that isn't within the scope of what we do.
Just
Does
need
that-
teachers to make sure that they know that.
Right. So does that get us to a
Staff,
spot right now?
Counselors, all of
I don't know if
them.
that satisfies Ms.
No,
Luke?
it does. I'm just very curious because clearly these were requested a while ago and yet the teachers haven't received them yet. So there's something that gives a green light to these being sent, right? There's something that gives a green light. There's a mechanism that turns this whole thing on.
Right.
And I'm still unclear what that mechanism is.
We actually have received them all already.
Oh, you have received them
Yes.
already? Well, that is a layer.
Could they be turned, would they be required to be turned back or returned if we don't qualify? Could this be an issue? No, it's done.
Yeah,
it's done.
not if we don't qualify. If the governing board were to choose not to accept it, then we would have to pull it back out and
Okay.
replace it, right? I mean, and which we could do, but
So are these in circulation right now? Probably in circulation. So we're kind of like a day late and a dollar short with this. I see.
If I can tell you this, if anything that came out that was racist in here or talked about anything like that, I would have somebody in a classroom pulling that crap out of there immediately. But there's nothing here.
If I may add, we do get a lot of donations outside of Donors Choose. And what happens, part of our process, it includes, we get that phone call, we get, the instructor along with the administrator determines whether or not that's something that can be used in the classroom. But many times we have the person like delivering the piece, the donation, and they just want to donate it to us. So what we do, based on board policy, you do have to accept all donations, even though we've already received them, because most of the times it happens that they come in and deliver it on the spot.
That's interesting.
I donated a stair stepper once.
Well, I think in light of that, it illuminates the need for some of these policy
Correct.
changes and procedural changes that we've already highlighted.
Completely.
Agreed.
Yep.
All right, so we're back to our original issue. We have a motion and a second to press, accept these. Mrs. Boggs, will you conduct a vote, please?
McAfee. Aye. Luke. Aye. Lane.
Aye.
Hobson.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Boggs is an aye, and Fleedem.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Staff reports, Dr. Wilson, we're going to put that on you.
Mr. President, members of the governing board, I will make this quick because I know everybody's tired. There's two items I'd just like to touch on briefly. First, I'd like to thank McCarthy for our dinner tonight. McCarthy. It's nice to have a partner that recognizes events like this are unique and sometimes we have limitations. And so for them to be able to come aside and help is very much appreciated. So thank you. The second piece is I just would like to give you a brief update on where we're at with our foster youth initiative. Jerron has come and talked with you a couple of times about some of the work he's doing, so some of the numbers he's growing, how we're, we used to have small, and he's continuing to bring more foster youth here and better servicing them. We've talked with you previously about the idea of having a high school on our campus that targets specifically foster youth and the benefit of having those students be close proximity to us, to not only complete high school, but also have the opportunity to potentially earn multiple industry certifications. And then by centralizing those individuals, having better wraparound services that maximizes the efficiency and the effectiveness of those students. We also, over the course of time, have mentioned periodically that there's lots of folks working really hard across the state of Arizona to meet the needs of foster youth, but there doesn't really seem to be kind of one thread that ties it all together. And one of the areas that we know is always a problem is foster youth that are aging out. So students that are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, that they're exiting the system in theory, but many of them don't have the ability to step into the next part of their life and be successful. And when we look at the percentage of those students that are exiting out of the foster system that potentially don't have the success that we'd want for our own kids, those that wind up on access, those that wind up incarcerated, those that wind up in homeless, it is a systemic issue for the state. So what we've said all along is that we want to look for long-term solutions, not solutions that just kind of do one-offs and then we move on. So we've talked with you previously about having the opportunity to have a foster youth residential facility that's on our campus, that's located on our campus. And we had said, that was probably a 2 to 3 year out goal. We've been working with some individuals in the legislature, some individuals, some good partners that we have. That we're continuing to have discussions that may present the opportunity for us to have the resources to build that facility out of this year's legislator. I don't know how to say that grammatically correct, but you get my point. Yeah. So the reason why I tell you that is because when we talk about the ability to change the lives of students, to change the lives of individuals, having a facility that has individuals that are about to age out of the system, that don't have necessarily the industry trades that they need, don't have necessarily the capacity to go on and be those contributing members of a society, for us to give them a space to live, give a space to earn the industry certification, give a space for them to get their feet on the ground before they take that next journey, that absolutely will change their life. Absolutely change their life. And what it will also do is it'll change, in my opinion, the trajectory of their families' lives. Because we know that mom and dad, the more opportunities they have, the more the children have opportunities. So we begin looking at systemic kind of approaches towards curbing an issue within our state that is in many cases tragically sad. So I bring that to you because there's a good chance, I don't know if it's good, there's a chance that we'll get those dollars allocated out of this year's budget and be in a position where sooner rather than later, we begin thinking through building out a 64 residential bed facility to house transitioning foster youth in order to give them a fighting chance to have success. That's it. That's all I got.
Do we have a facility, a shell of a building to house that, or is that going to be?
We're going to build it.
Construction.
It's going to be construction, but the dollars that we're asking is the dollars.
And who would operate that?
So that'd be part of the conversation that we come back with you. We go back and forth, and it's ultimately going to be your guys' decision. My belief on it is that EVIT needs to stay as much a part of it as possible, because the voodoo we do so well cannot be replicated. And so the more we start moving away from it, I think that the more problematic it becomes.
Well, there's a couple of particular, one in particular agency in Mesa that kind of specializes in
There
this
is.
sort of thing. And
We've had a number of agencies. There's been no shortage of folks who want to help, and that's been a really wonderful experience. And again, this is, I feel this way today, and you'll convince me tomorrow, but this is about doing what's in the best interest of kids and doing it in a way.
It's a huge issue.
And so the
but we wanna-
more people you get at the table to eat dinner, the more crowded dinner becomes. And I don't want a crowded table when it comes to these kids. I want a table that feeds them and nobody else.
Are you thinking of this location or are you thinking?
No, the main campus.
The main
Yeah.
campus.
The main campus, just because the proximity of land. I mean, there's
Well,
64
the
acres.
demographics fit this more than.
Well, there's 64 acres out there and some of it's underdeveloped. We'd have to move some things around. But there's plenty of space there. The school that we're partnering with is going to be there as well. So it kind of gives that whole one stop, whatever you call, kind of on that close to light rail. So again, as we try to transition these individuals into the workforce, their job may take them into Phoenix, their job may take them into further East Mesa. So the light rail's there. So that we're tentatively thinking on the main campus.
When do you think you'll have more information on this?
When you
No.
hear the budget's passed.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So when the budget passes.
But you've already got it kind of wiggled into the budget.
Not yet,
somewhere.
but we're in the process of wiggling it.
All right.
We're in the process of wiggling it. And again, I just share this with you because, and again, I'm a chatty Cathy tonight. To be in a spot, to be in an organization, to work for a board that has the ability to look at things and not only look for solutions that make sense, but look for solutions that potentially make sense, not just for those that we're servicing today, but for those that are going to come after us. That's what change is about. It's not just about what's happening and then we leave. This is potentially systemic change, and that's really exciting. So, Mr. President, that's all I got.
All right. That brings us to our beloved item 11B, adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Pleasure seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Discussions about Dr. Wilson and other folks' salaries.
We're kind of hamstrung, so the